available on our YouTube and other channels. Good morning, Stuart. How are you?
Morning, thanks, Pete. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you very much. So as you can see, I'm in sunny Monte Carlo here, and I'm just about to start the introductions. So I should just go back to the PowerPoint deck and just a quick introduction and the agenda for today. So welcome, first and foremost. Thank you for joining. It is really appreciated. The purpose of today is to look at Oracle Primavera Cloud and in particular integrated project risk. And by that I mean we can do everything we want from a planning and scheduling view and risk analysis all in one product. So we're not having to import and export files. So I'm going to show you an overview of a sample project building a house, and we've got particular dates and costs assigned to it. But what we're trying to work out is what is the probability of this actually happening. And so I'll be showing you how the risk matrix is set up in OPC, how we then apply activity uncertainty, and we'll look at the risk register and how we can assign risk to activities. Then we'll actually run the Monte Carlo analysis and we'll see what the probability of hitting our target date is. I've got a little slide deck as well on comparing risk analysis functionality. So this is just comparing the Primavera products, EPPM, Primavera Risk Analysis and OPC. It's always being updated, but I won't go into too much detail on that. But like I say, it will be available on the deck that I'll provide afterwards. We've also launched from next month some Oracle Primavera Cloud training courses for administration and schedule, portfolio, lean. So we've got some dates on the website and there's a link on the deck, and I'll briefly talk you through that. There will be time at the end for a Q&A. So, but if you do have any questions as we go through today, just unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can type your question into the chat and we'll pick up any questions at the end. So that's the agenda, and just a little bit about RPC. For those who haven't heard of us before, we're a lovely, friendly company based in Guiseley, near Leeds, West Yorkshire, and we're Oracle partners, and we specialise in project controls, particularly around Primavera products. So that's P6, EPPM, and Professional, of course, PRA, Unifier. So that's what we do. We are one of the leading Oracle partners, I would say, and there's a little bit of bump on here. I'm not going to read this, but we've been an Oracle partner for some years now, and like I say, we're specialised in Primavera. So I'm hoping you're going to enjoy a live demo of what Oracle Primavera Cloud can do in terms of integrated risk management. Now, if we have a look at what typically happens, and what we see is a lot of companies run their projects with three different groups of people. So there might be planners who are using MSP or P6. There's estimators focus on cost and working in Excel or other estimating tools. And then we've got risk managers and analysts who are working on in Excel or other specialist risk tools. And with all three working in silos, it's impossible to answer the simple questions from a management perspective. What are the chances of this project finishing on time? And the planner sat in the middle of all this. Well, I've got a plan in P6. I've got a risk register with 30 risks, 10 of which are red. And we've got to somehow manage these 3 or 4 different types of people or groups of people who are using managing projects. So with Oracle Primavera Cloud, that's going to sit right in the middle, and that's hopefully going to address all the questions that the planners, estimators and risk managers might have. And you can see there we've updated the project manager there. Now knows that we're currently 75%, but we've got a proposed mitigation plan to get 95%. So we can pull all this information together in one tool, and this is really what we call integrated project risk. And the integrated project risk allows the native risk life cycle, a fully functional qualitative and quantitative risk register, pre-built reporting and analytics. And if you are using P6 already, there's a bi-directional integration with P6. So you could have your schedule in P6 EPPM, you can integrate that into OPC, run your Monte Carlo analysis, and then you can send the results back to P6 as well and start to view your probability and your most likely dates as bars in both P6 and of course OPC. So without further ado, I'm going to dive straight into the OPC demo. So I'll come back to that slide in a second. So hopefully you can all see my screen. And this is the sample project that I'm going to be working through. It's just a sample build a house type project, which we're planning to start on the 2nd of August. And we've got a planned finish date of the 12th of April with a duration and a cost of £103,000. So obviously only a small house or even a garage if we were buying this in London. But anyway, so this is just really just to show you that OPC is a fully fledged planning and scheduling tool. If people have not used OPC before, or if they're familiar with P6, they'll find it very easy in terms of getting to grips with how to put a schedule together. So that's one of the strengths of OPC, is it's got a very powerful, based on the P6 scheduling engine. So I've just built a basic plan here, and of course we can show the Gantt chart and where it's going to start and finish, and relationships and schedule and all the rest of the stuff that's going on. So what we want to do is we want to look at this planned finish date of the 12th of April here, and we want to ask ourselves a question, well, actually, what is the probability of this happening by that date or by that cost? So I've got a few tabs set up here. So instead of going to the different tabs, I've just set the tabs up on my my browser here. So first thing I'm going to do is talk to you about the risk matrix in OPC. So the risk matrix is template based. So once you've created one, you can use it across different projects. You can create different matrices for different sizes of projects, you know, small projects, medium projects, large projects, complex projects, whatever it might be. And in this risk matrix, like you can see here, we've got thresholds that we've set up for schedule. We're just using a 5x5 matrix. So if I click on the schedule here, this is where we can put in the levels and what is high and what is low, and we can color code the schedule probability. We can look at the cost thresholds, so we can put in, you know, if it was a high cost threshold, it could be between these two values, and so on and so forth. And again, it's color coded. We can also do the same with probability. So the probability of something occurring, if it's very high, we're talking about something that's between 80 and 100%. If it's low, it's between 20 and 40. This is all totally configurable to your type of project that you're working on. So it could be, you might want to use this risk matrix as it is, or you can create your own risk matrix and assign it to a project. So that's the thresholds. And then of course we want to look at the PI grid. So this is where we can specify that if we get a score of 72, then it's in the very high probability scoring here, and it gets a score of 72. So 72 or above, it'll go red. Anything between in the amber here, so this looks like it's between 6 and 14. If it gets a score, it'll turn it amber. And anything that's lower severity but less probability, you can see we're down here in the greens. Of course, this doesn't mean we should be ignoring these risks. It's just categorizing these in a sample PI grid. And again, all this is totally editable and customizable for your size and type of project. So I just created this risk matrix for this build house demo project that we're going to be working on. The next thing I'm going to look at is the risk register. So again, this is all pre-built. So the risk register allows you to add your own risks manually. or you can import risks from Excel. So simply download an import template, and you can import your risks through Excel, or like I say, you can put them in manually. We have various statuses for each risks, whether it's open, active, proposed, managed, rejected, whatever the status of the risk is. And we also have a type, whether it's an opportunity or a threat. And more recently, we've even had the weather module that's been incorporated into the risk register. So we describe all these risks, and you'll see that we've ended up with a pre and a post response score. And these pre and post response scores are based on the values that I put into the columns over here. So what I'm saying here is underground conditions may delay progress. So this is high probability, medium in terms of schedule, and medium in terms of response cost. So that's, remember the color coding from the risk matrix, that's where this is picking up from. And it's quite simply click the drop down and pick your variable from the list, and then when you do that, you'll notice the score will be recalculated when I hit the save button here. And the objective is that the pre-response score should be higher than the post-response score. So what we're saying is any activities that we don't mitigate are going to have a higher score. And if I shuffle along the page here, you can see I've now got post-response probability, schedule and cost. And so again, just by clicking in the fields and clicking the drop down, I can pick from the thresholds that I set up. So if I said actually this was very low, then you notice it changed the post-response score here. So you can create this risk register, like I say, from scratch, or you can import it from Excel. I won't save those changes. And then for each of the risks, we have various tabs that then we can document the metadata about the risk. So on the general tab here, it's telling me about the risk and the status and the threat, and to give it a risk ID, the date it was identified, assign it to a manager or whoever it was identified by. I can put further details into the risk details, so the cause and effect, so the bad ground conditions. And what that might happen is we've got potential for solid ground conditions and would cause delay unless a survey is carried out. So you can put in your risk details. You've also got the option to add in your response actions. So one of the response actions for this might be that we do a survey of the underground soil. So we can put in one or more response actions against each. We can then choose to use the probability matrix that we've set above here to calculate the Monte Carlo scores when that comes up, or we can override the probabilities and just put in fixed values. So that's the same for probability. We do the same for schedule. So this one here, I'm just saying the minimum's 5, the maximum is 10, and post response is 0 and 5, so obviously less. So when Monte Carlo does its statistical analysis, this is where it's looking at this. Similarly for the cost impact, so everything that you need against a particular risk. You can also link a risk to an activity. So in this case here, I've linked this underground conditions to the excavation of foundations. So if I was to go back to the schedule and look for this activity 40, let's just have a quick look here. So if I go back and have a look at risk 40 and then click on the risks tab for that particular risk, you can see here, actually there's 2 risks assigned to activity 40. There's bad weather that could affect this, and there's also underground conditions that might affect it. So we've got one activity with multiple types of risk and multiple types. I'll mention this weather risk type in a second. So when you build your risk register, you can then link to activities. There's various coding features. We haven't set anything up here, but this enables you to, when you're grouping and sorting and filtering, you can sort the risks by a code. You can upload files. So if there's drawings or documents that are showing where this risk is, you can upload that to the document repository. Just quickly before I finish on this one, the weather risk here is where do we have it? Yeah, there's the weather risk. If I click on the general tab and then click on weather here. So what I'm saying is if there is a risk assigned to this activity, and I've just created the 4 seasons, autumn, winter, spring and summer. And I've said if it's in the autumn, the minimum is 2 and the most likely is 5, the maximum is 7. It gets slightly worse if it's in the winter, and then it's slightly better as we go into the spring. And then of course the summer weather should give us less impact on our activity. So there is a weather module again that will come into play when we run the risk analysis. So I like to think this is a fully featured risk register. It's got as much as I think we need to categorize and group and sort and assign the risks with all the response actions, new probability and all the rest of it. So once we've created the risk register, the next thing we'd want to do before we run the Monte Carlo analysis is to assign the minimum, most likely and maximum durations for each activity. So this can be done either manually by typing in a value. So the minimum it will take us to prepare the site is 45 days, but I can just change that manually. The most likely is the planned duration, and the maximum is the maximum it will take us. So this is based on past experience when we've done this type of project before. And we can either type these values in manually for all the activities, or there is a quick risk way of doing this. We can apply activity uncertainty, and we can specify a triangle or uniform distribution. So what I'm saying here is for each activity, the minimum duration is 90% of the planned. The most likely is 100% of the planned, so the most likely is the same as the planned, and the maximum is 130. Again, these values here can be set to whatever the requirements are for your particular project. And when we start running the Monte Carlo analysis, this is where the statistical analysis of Monte Carlo will determine what the probability is of doing all these activities when Monte Carlo starts rolling the dice, as it were. So I can either redo this, like I say, I can change the values manually, or I can overwrite the values and set them to these particular parameters. I'm going to leave these at these parameters for now. So that's just setting the mins, the max, and the most likelies. So the optimistic, if you like, and the pessimistic values for when I run my Monte Carlo analysis. And that's applying the risk uncertainty. And so, of course, it gets to the exciting bit now. We actually want to run the risk analysis. Now, I've actually run this already, but just to show you the parameters that we can specify in here. And it literally only does take a couple of minutes, but I have set this up so we don't have to wait that minute or two. So when I run the risk analysis, you'll see it's got the options. If you've used something like Primavera risk analysis or PERT master as it was known, you've got the various options that are in here. So how many iterations do you want to make? Do you want to do it on the projects and all activities, or just the project or milestones? So you've got various options on this. Whether you want to include the risk removal. And if you're unsure what some of these things mean, you've got the little question mark bubble here, and it'll give you information about if you want this switched on or off. This is what the Monte Carlo analysis is going to do. So we've said to include proposed risks. We want to look at both pre and post response. We want to compare, well, what's the Monte Carlo analysis if we didn't mitigate those risks, and what does it look like if we do mitigate some of those risks? This is setting the seed, so random number generator seed. As you're probably aware, there is no such thing as a random number in computing, but this is the best we can get. And I'm not going to go into the details on here using convergence, and I don't think there's enough information in here anyway, but I have set my optimistic percentile to be 20%. So that in real terms is my P20. And I've set my pessimistic percentile to be my P80. Now, some companies want, P10s, P30s, P90s, whatever you might want to do. So you can, again, at the project level, you can set your percentiles in here. And then basically what you do is you just hit the run risk analysis option. And what Monte Carlo is going to do now is it's going to run through 1,000 iterations, looking at the mins and the maxes and the planned, and generating a random number between those and plotting those in this type of S-curve that we're going to get as a result of that. So what we're saying here, the cumulative curve here is the number of the frequency of the hits. And when we look at this is the in May, this is the distribution for the frequency. So I've asked for P20 and P80. So that's nicely summarized in this table here. So what it's saying is you've got a deterministic finish. The project's scheduled to finish on the 12th of April 22, but actually you've only got a 2% chance of hitting that. So that's back down here somewhere. Because I asked for a P20 and a P80 when I set the Monte Carlo to run, it's saying you've actually got a 20% probability of finishing by the 2nd of May. There's a 50% chance, so 50% is, it'll finish on time or it won't finish on time. And we've got a 17th of May finish, and the pessimistic finish is the 16th of June. So we're down at, quite late on there. And of course, the 100%, worst case scenario is out here somewhere. So, Mr. Customer will definitely have this project finished by, sometime in August, or maybe even September, a bit later. So this is the cumulative curve, and then it plots all this. Now, what we're looking at here is everything based on the pre-response probability and schedule and cost that we put in on the risk register. And this is the pre-response, so post-mitigated. If we did want to look at the post-response, so if we mitigated some of those responses, I can now get a different view of the world, and we're still, we're a percentage better in the deterministic finish probability, but we brought the P20 in a little bit, we brought the P80 in a little bit, and the 100% is now, in June somewhere. So if we were to mitigate those risks, what Primavera Cloud is telling me here, the Monte Carlo are telling me that if we mitigate some of those risks, we're going to have a better chance of getting the project on time. And of course, when we ran the Monte Carlo analysis, we said I want both pre and post response. So when I click the drop down here, I can actually see the cumulative curves compared. So this is the post response. So if we mitigated those risks, this is what's going to happen, and the post response, and this is what's going to happen. Now this is for the project as a whole. So what we can do, let's take a look at the post response. We can look at either an individual WBS. So I can break down my project into, let's see what excavations is doing and lay drains and select that. So we can look at this at an activity level, or we can roll it back up to the WBS. So we can drill down and get a bit more detail about what's happening here. So that's that capability. Now, you'll also notice we've got, let's put that back to the project. There we go. Okay. So we're looking at the finish date probability here, and we're looking at the post-response finish date. I didn't set anything in start date, so everything is going to start okay. I can look at duration as well. So this is the duration of the activity. So remember, we had 181 days in the project, 3% chance of that. The P20 is 190 days, and the P50 is P50 is 197, and the P80 is 205 days. So we can look at this not only in terms of finish date, start date, if we'd have put some data in for that, but also duration. And we can also look at the cost. So if we click on the cost one here, the next big thing is you'll see the deterministic remaining cost is 0. At the moment, the schedule cost is not linked to the risk register. So the cost that we're looking at here is based on the thresholds that I put in on the risk register. So this is going to be a bit more meaningful when we do get connected cost in this. and I believe that's not too far away. Other output that we can get from the Monte Carlo analysis is we can look at the mean impact, and this is the otherwise known as the tornado graph. So this is the activities and the frequency that they were affected by when we ran the Monte Carlo analysis. I've just got some notes on here. So this is otherwise known as tornado plots, tornado charts, butterfly charts, whatever you want to call them. And the categories are ordered so that the largest bar appears at the top, the second largest appears second from the top, and so on. And they're so named because the final chart sort of visually resembles either one half or a complete tornado. So again, we can look at this activity delay contribution pre-response, or we can look at it post-response. So we can see which activities are now causing the issues both pre and post. And we can even show a contribution breakdown by clicking a tab here, and we can see how much is the risk and the risks assigned to them. So we can again do that from pre and post response and show this contribution breakdown. Now I don't know, did we do risk removal? Yeah, we did a little bit of risk removal. So these are now listing the risks that are going to affect the project if we take them out of the equation or if we mitigate them fully. So we can see here the risk removal probability and uncertainty. Again, we can do that both pre and post response views. Okay. So I think if you were using similar risk management tools, like ARM or Primavera risk analysis, you'll be fairly familiar with these sort of tornado graphs and reading the output from them. I guess that's another day, another job in terms of time today. I'm just showing you what the output kind of looks like. So when we've finished doing our risk analysis, I created another little view in my OPC here, where currently I'm showing in the Gantt chart just the planned dates, but I created a view here showing the risk pre and post dates. So you'll see now we've got 3 bars for each activity, and what I'm showing is the post response pessimistic and optimistic finishes. In fact, the legend, if I let me just show you what the legend looks like for that. If I go in here and show bars, there we go. So the red bar is the current plan finish, the yellow bar is the pre-response P50 finish, and the dark blue bar here is the post-response P50 finish. And again, you can choose various options on this. And again, if you were linking this to your P6 EPPM schedule, for example, these dates and the post and pre-response dates will get posted back to P6 EPPM, and you can show the bars similarly in P6 EPPM. So that was my quick run through of the Monte Carlo analysis. I'm just going to quickly jump back through to the slide deck and just a couple of things, and then we can start to take some questions. I did work with my colleagues at Oracle, and Dave, I'm sure you'll recognize this. So we're looking at the functionality of the 3 risk tools that are currently in P6. EPPM, comparing it with risk analysis, and OPC risk. I'm not going to go through these now, but you can see that OPC risk still got a few yeses to fill in on here, but I think over time, then we're going to see more and more features added into OPC risk. It actually does go into 2 pages, so you'll see there's a lot more green on OPC risk, and it certainly does more things than Primavera risk analysis, certainly in terms of being able to view risks across a program, and of course the collaborative integrated risks, in that we don't need a separate tool or a separate application for the schedule and a separate application for the risk management. We've got it all centralized in Oracle Primavera Cloud. So that was that. We have, I just also mentioned, we've launched just recently our new range of OPC training courses. So we've got a course for cloud administration, so how to set up users and workspaces and all that sort of thing. Cloud schedule, which would include how to manage the risk modules that I was just going through there. Cloud lean, work task management, portfolio, and of course OPC comes with a couple of apps for mobile management for projects and for progress as well. And as a cover-all, we've got the Oracle Primavera Cloud Advanced topics. So instead of a fixed menu of topics, we can, once you've done the basic training, we can then start looking at anything else, advanced scheduling and resource management and whatever else you want. So we try to capture, what we think we need for an initial training, but then we can customize training as required. So that was my 35 minutes, and I'm going to throw the floor open if there's any questions you'd like to ask. I would like to say thanks for registering, thanks for attending. We will send you a link with the full PowerPoint deck of all the slides that or all the screenshots that I've just quickly gone through. And we'll also send a little survey to say, what did you think of today's session? Could it be more, less detail, more, less topics, something like that? We're always planning the next lunch bite sessions, of course. So we're also interested in what would you like to see, Primavera-wise, Unifier-wise, risk-wise, whatever it is. We're happy to set any of these lunch bite sessions up. So I don't know if there are any questions in the chat, or if you have a question, I'm more than happy to take those questions now. Let's go back to here. And okay, so any questions? So I'll look, have we got anything in here? Yeah, Pat's typing something. Hello, Pat. Yeah, you can create a 3x3 matrix. Yeah, is it simple to set it up? Is that what you mean, Pat? Absolutely straightforward. Yeah, that's the answer to that. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Pete.
All right. Yeah, I'll hopefully catch up with you this afternoon, Pat.
No problem. Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Dave, you've been listening in as the Oracle risk expert. Anything you'd like to add to any of this?
Yeah, no, Pete, it was good. It's good seeing someone else running through it all for once, rather than doing it all myself. It's interesting. I lost connection right at the bit where you were talking about the P6 PRA comparison, so I missed anything you said there, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I think it was good. I think yeah, you mentioned that the cost piece is certainly something that we're working on at the moment. You've got costs on schedule, and getting that connected into risk, so that when activity durations increase, you see the resulting cost increase is absolutely something that we've got coming as a high priority at the minute. Yep.
Good, thank you. Martin and Johnny and Stuart, any questions? You don't have to be shy.
No question for me, Peter. Really good session. I'm a planner by profession, and I don't do the risk analysis myself. We've got a risk manager that does that, but I'm just keen to know how it runs, so that's why I'm on this session today. But it's been a good one. Good.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, Stuart, Martin, sorry.
None from me either. There's a recording of this. I can see I've really struggled with reception during this, so I guess I'll have to go back and watch the recording.
Ah, there are some crimes in life, aren't there? Sorry, Martin.
There are. It's the heat.
All right. No problem. We'll send you a link for the recording. And Stuart?
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Pete, is if you've got a big, complicated schedule, is there a way of applying the risk to sort of summary level bars or level of effort bars? I'm just thinking to do a more high level risk across a big, complicated program.
Yeah, that was one of the options, I think, when we ran the Monte Carlo analysis, to say, don't do all activities. I think it was level of effort and milestones. Dave might correct me on that one.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there, Pete. So yeah, so that option that you see on the risk analysis page is to do with the level of detail that is captured. And it's, if you've got a very detailed schedule, you might not be necessarily wanting to see the distribution chart for every single activity, right? So you can get it just for level of effort and milestones, or even just the project itself. But it isn't changing the level of detail of the schedule that you're running it against. Certainly one of the things that is recommended in a number of places, PMI, AACEI, a lot of the different kind of bodies around project and project controls, is that it's potentially worth creating a summary version of your schedule in order to run risk analysis. And recommendation is kind of like a few hundred activities, because if you start getting too more detailed than that, it gets quite complex to manage, and you end up making overgeneralizations around how you approach it. But certainly appreciate that's not always that simple a thing to do as well, right? And it means potentially having kind of two versions of your schedule that you're keeping in sync with one another, right? The detailed one and then a summary schedule.
Yeah. Could you use it by activity code as well? So if you've got an idea of what your areas of risk are, could you use activity codes to just run the analysis on by activity code, or is it just really activity types at the minute?
So really, when you're running it, you need to be running it against the full schedule in order to get all the relationships and everything to be taken into account. But when you're applying the risks, and I'm not sure if you're talking specifically about the connection between risks and activities. When you were in the risk register, and Pete showed you from the risk register how you can see that particular risk, if it occurs, will impact that activity. Sometimes it's easier to do that the other way around. So when you're in the schedule view, when you're in the activities page, you can also select a group of activities and say these are the activities that will be impacted should the risk occur. And the benefit of doing it from the activities page the other way around is you can use codes or filters, groupings, etc., to kind of quickly go to the particular activities that might be impacted. So if you've got like a weather risk, let's say for high winds, and maybe you've got a code in there that says what is the working height of your activities, and it's all those that crane type work, right? Things that are above a certain height. Maybe you've got a code in there. You can quickly type in that code, use the quick filter, or set up a proper filter, and then map the risk to those activities in that way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a way of, like you say, it can get very complicated if you're looking at a lot of detail, can't it?
Yeah. Yep. No, absolutely. It can. Yeah. And the other thing I was just going to mention, Pete, as well, and I'm happy if there's other questions. Sorry, Pete, I feel like I'm jumping in quite a bit at the end. But, I think the other thing to kind of bear in mind with risk in Primavera Cloud, in comparison to say Primavera Risk Analysis, and also in comparison to where a lot of people are capturing risk, which is Excel, right? Is kind of here on the quantitative piece and running the risk analysis. I think there's a huge amount of benefit as well, just for getting your risks into a central solution. If you want to then create dashboards or views that show you what are the different risks that have occurred across all my different projects, or I think I've had this type of risk before, you've got all of it then at your fingertips, right? That you can easily go and search. PRA just didn't have that type of capability, right? It's all in separate files, the same way as it's in separate files if you're using Excel, right? So I think that is just another different approach, I guess, that's possible with risk in Primavera Cloud versus both
Yeah.
PRE and Excel files.
On that topic, Dave, and one thing I didn't mention was that was looking at one project and one risk register, but we can pull a program together, which is any number of projects into a program, and we can view the risks across all those projects. But we can also create program risks. So there may be a risk, currency fluctuations or whatever it might be that would if occurred, could affect any number of projects in that program. So that was something I didn't actually mention, but there is the ability to view risks across a program and also create specific program related risks. Can't run the Monte Carlo against them, of course, but you are at least able to see the risk register for those projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, Pete.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there's any more questions, if not, we'll call it a draw. And again, thanks everyone for joining. Keep safe and enjoy the sunshine until the rain arrives on Saturday. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Pete.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.